and look at it. Something's wrong. Something's wrong with you, sir.
It just depends on what shift you're working.
That's right, yeah.
Exactly,
Is
right?
this the beginning of your shift?
Sometimes there is, morning is just means something different.
Starting from a Drake, it's full budget.
Lots of, how'd that go? About the same. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
Not bad.
coming from the emergency room then. Okay. All right,
Ready to start?
we have everybody, yeah.
Okay, let's get started. Welcome everyone to the Middlesex Council of Governments, Wednesday, May 2026 at 7:00, 7:01. And need a roll call to start the meeting off.
Chris Tribu?
Here,
Chris, okay.
Here.
Don Plummer,
Present.
Phil,
Here.
Jim Wilkie,
here,
Chuck,
here,
Joan,
Here.
Stephen,
I'm here.
Jonathan,
here.
Kimberly.
Here.
Okay, all right, that is it.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to meeting minutes. Minutes from NMCOG council meeting, April 25th, 2026. Anybody had a chance to review them? Any corrections, changes? Let us know now before we make a motion. Okay, need a motion to approve.
Second,
Get those, Jenny.
Sorry, was that Chuck moved?
Jonathan.
Yeah, I think I would. No,
And Jonathan moved, and
Oh.
who seconded? Sorry. Okay, Jonathan, you moved the minutes, and then who was the second?
I seconded.
Okay, thank you, Chris. And,
Okay,
all right, Chris Tribu,
yep, sorry.
we're now voting.
Yep,
How do you
Yeah,
vote? Chris? Okay, Don Plummer,
Yes.
Phil,
Yes.
Jim,
I abstain.
okay. Chuck,
Aye.
Joan,
Aye.
Jonathan,
aye.
Kimberly,
Aye.
and I believe Sean Kelly, did you join?
Hi, everyone. Aye.
Great,
awesome. Thank you.
thank you. Before we move on to the warrant,
Yep.
I would like to introduce a new NMCOG team member, Lauren Kiesling, who is joining us on the Zoom. And just welcome her to the team. She joined as a regional planner, and they've brought an amazing amount of experience to our agency. They are also actually currently acting as the regional housing coordinator since the regional housing coordinator, Christian D'Amelia, unfortunately moved on to another wonderful opportunity, and we are in the process of hiring, but they are here tonight, and I thought I would give them an opportunity to introduce themselves to all of you. So Lauren.
Sure, thanks, Jenny. Hi, folks. Good evening.
Hi.
I am just almost rounding out my third month at NMCOG, and it has been a really great ride so far. Super happy to step into the housing coordinator role for the time being. I think I met some of y'all during the interview process, but to folks I hadn't, very nice to meet you, and super excited to be part of the agency. So thanks.
Thank you, Lauren. Welcome. Yeah.
Welcome.
Thanks, Lauren.
Okay, we'll move on to financial report and warrant.
All right, good evening, everybody. We have another month of bills. A lot of what's on here, actually, believe it or not, are consultant bills. So these are paid, we are passed through. What that means is we are funded from a grant, and then that money passes through us, and then we pay the consultants. You do see a little bit extra activity here for that, but we also have 2 payrolls, and we rounded out at 243,771.63. I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Do you have any questions for Sarah? If not, need a motion to approve the financial report and warrant. Motion to accept the report. Have a second?
Second,
Okay.
Moved by Phil and seconded by Don.
Yep, we need a roll
Okay.
call.
Chris Trebu,
Yes.
Don. Phil,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Jason Silva has joined.
Yes.
Chuck,
Aye.
Joan,
Aye.
Jonathan,
Aye.
Kimberly. Sean
Aye.
and Joni has just joined us.
Okay. So, okay, motion for. We just move on to next agenda item, which is fiscal year 2027 NMCOG operating budget approval. Who's gonna present that?
Chuck,
Chuck, from FinCom?
Yes, good evening, everyone. The Finance Committee meeting met last week to go over the budget, and I'd like to really thank Jenny and Kelly and Sandra for all the work that they've done on the budget for 2027. The information that was provided by Jenny in her executive summary was phenomenal, and it really helped us or guided us through our conversations on the budget for the upcoming year. I think it's important to note that the one key factor that I see in here is that this budget does align with our strategic plan that we developed a year or so ago. And that's an important aspect to make sure that we're holding true to what the mission is of NMCOG and how we see ourselves going forward. The financial meeting ended with a unanimous vote of the committee, all in favor of the budget as presented. And what we'll do now is we'll turn it over to Jenny for any questions. But I think if you had the opportunity to read the summary, that should answer most of the questions that you'll have.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. Any questions for Chuck before we move to Jenny? FinCom? Okay, thank you, Jenny.
all right, great, thank you. So I know that not everybody is necessarily familiar with how NMCOG's funding works. So the memo that I provide to you is meant to introduce you at a high level to how our budget operates and the various sources of funds. I do want to acknowledge, of course, Kelly Lynema as Deputy Director in partnering with me on developing this budget, and Sarah Schreiber, who is the Finance and Benefits Manager, who provided all of the budgeting framework and financial details in order to make this all reality. Also, Chris Hayes, who is also with us tonight on the Zoom as Director of Housing and Economic Development, as well as Carlin Andrus, our GIS and Data Program Manager, also contributed to the development of the programs and the services that are reflected in the budget. So thank you to all of the team for coming together on this. It was a lot of work to get to this point in time. And I say that because it's a budget that I am happy to present to the council, but it is also a budget that has a lot of constraints around it. And that is acknowledged in the memo, and you'll see that reflected also in the numbers that I'm going to run through just momentarily. But essentially, just for a high level, we are, as Chuck already introduced, we are continuing to advance the goals of the strategic plan to the best of our ability. I believe that seems to be effective. It's also seems to be effective in our communities when we have discussions with them on various planning activities. So I appreciate that. Overall, though, the budget itself is a very modest increase in overall funding. And that meant that even though we have a very strong position financially overall, we're in a stable place right now. It meant that we had to use a lot of restraint in thinking about the budget for the next operating year. And it led us to the conclusion that we needed to eliminate a staff position. And so that individual was unfortunately laid off last week. That is our executive assistant position, who had a 4 day a week position. So not as the same as all of the other full-time staff who work at the agency, but that was one of the most significant choices that had to be made as part of this budgeting process. So we did unfortunately have to experience that layoff, but that was really in an effort to look at our indirect funding, which is the primary source that was funding that position. And with the acknowledgement that our federal funding, which is primarily through the US Department of Transportation, but through MassDOT, has gone in a direction that has made it more challenging to fund the broad range of activities that a typical regional planning agency engages in, because we're also a metropolitan planning organization and a COG. So we play a lot of roles for you, but our funding sources actually are not as flexible as we are as an agency. So with that level of the limitations there, and also some of the I know the word of the year is uncertainty, but unfortunately that is the word here. We don't know exactly what the next federal fiscal year will look like. We have a little clue because transportation reauthorization bill actually came out and there's a lot of talk about it. I think it overall will probably still be okay, but it's a narrowing of the activities that we can fund through our current transportation program, which means that we're going to have to pursue other resources in order to offset the wonderful things that we do and will continue to want to do for your communities. So those are like, that's the main thing that I want to communicate, is that we experienced a staffing, a layoff, which is due to the limitations in our resources, and also then the use of the indirect funding that we still have. We need to utilize it for other purposes. So for our revenues, we are likely to receive roughly, very modest increase to our transportation dollars from the federal government. Member community assessments, as I also provided for those of you who weren't here in November last year and voted on it, those are the FY27 numbers. We'll revisit the member community assessment number at another time with the Finance Committee in the future. That was the last of the 3-year plan that we put together when we raised the community assessment fee. So we'll need to have another discussion about that in the future before the next go at thinking about the FY28 budget. We also are moving forward with the Northern Middlesex Regional Housing Services Office. We have an intermunicipal agreement that we're in the process of getting signed by the 5 communities that are listed on the screen: Billerica, Dracut, Lowell, Pepperell, and Tewksbury. And we're also trying to continue to secure the funds that are associated with that, which, if all are moves forward and is received, would be a little over $125,000 to continue that service. It was in a pilot this past year, and those communities decided to move forward with it on the regular. I mentioned the transportation dollars and the federal apportionment also included $251,000 and change in our additional planning funds. We are still in the process of trying to access those dollars, and some have been approved. Some of our requests have been approved, but we will await additional approvals as the rest of this year continues and moves into the next federal fiscal year. The district local technical assistance, which is one of our primary funding sources that supports all of our technical assistance activities. The budget, the amendment to the original budget request to bring it to $4 million did not unfortunately move forward. So $3 million is what is currently in the budget, in the state budget again. And this is for years now about the same, so level funding will continue. We anticipate additional local, state, potentially other federal contracts. We actually are pretty aggressive right now in terms of pursuing, or aggressively pursuing grants. We like that word. And we anticipate that we will certainly receive some of those funds, but we didn't want to go too far with that in this budget proposal because we don't want to overreach in terms of what we might actually receive. So the amount that we have assumed in the budget is much less than what we actually are pursuing in funds. As you also know, from those of you who've experienced this, we always have a mid-year budget adjustment. So when we overreach in one direction or underreach in another, we adjust that when we get to December through the mid-year adjustment. So that's basically what we're looking at for revenues. On the expense side, the item that has been the one to follow is the IT budget item, because that one has changed the most dramatically in the last few years, because what we used to do in-house and with a very small service contract, we've turned into a much bigger contract with many more services because of the changes with our team and the different types of applications and software we use, because we care about cybersecurity, which is obviously important, and because we've also made a lot of upgrades to our systems. It's generally consistent with the current fiscal year levels. However, we moved the primary service agreement to another line item, which is why it appears to be so much dramatically bigger than in a prior year. So consistent with our commitment to maintaining a wonderful team and also in alignment with our strategic plan, you'll see that there are costs related to that. And that includes things like professional development and training and support for credentials. We also have a number of memberships that we intend to continue as a full for our full entire staff. I mentioned the staffing structure, which is now to 13 full-time employees. And we also retain a number of consultants in order to do a number of different services, whether it's for our plans or other operational supports, human resources, legal. And so those are also included in the budget as they have been in the past. So the budget overall is a $2.9 million budget for roughly. Shows a positive position, but that also showed a much higher number in the current fiscal year. So that is a much lower change in our net position. The budget sheets run through what we project in revenues, when the contracts what the contract total is, when it begins, when it ends. Some of these contracts are multi-year contracts. In other words, they carry over across fiscal years. We also give you a walkthrough of our expenses and a comparison of the fiscal year budget, actually from when we approved it mid-year. So not last May when you approved this fiscal year's budget, when you approved our adjustment. We feel that that's a better juxtaposition of budgets to that point into our proposed budget this year. So you can see overall that marginal increase in revenue, the increases to expenses, the change overall. And you also can see the listing of some of the funding sources by name. And this is upon request, of course, to compare the revenues. Sometimes we pursue certain grants one year and the next year that grant funding source may not be available. It doesn't mean that we didn't necessarily get a grant the second year. It just means it's not a grant we're utilizing. And I believe that is the end of this. So I will pause there, see if there are questions. Belinda has one. Belinda has joined us, by the way, for
thanks.
everybody on the Zoom.
Hi, everybody.
How you doing?
Good. How are
Take
you?
that off the screen so I
Sorry,
can see everybody.
I always have a conflict at this time, but I was glad I'm into the role.
Yes.
Just a quick question on page 10, and I always love comparisons, so I love that page. The consultant / contracts, is the one that I didn't see an explanation that I understood
Okay.
elsewhere, and that one went up a lot, so just curious.
Do you want to talk about that? I'm actually trying to find.
Yeah,
I saw last page.
yeah, part of the reason for that going up is that under our MassDOT contract, when we access de-obligated funds, those are funds that we haven't used in our UPWP. MassDOT does not allow us to use those for staff time. And so we requested quite a bit of money in de-obligated funds for, and it has to be used for either consultants or direct costs.
Yeah, there was some mention of that, but.
Yeah, and the other estimate that is put in there under consultants is a roughly $500,000 contract using TIP funding to do a rail study. That again would be, that wouldn't, it sort of negates itself when it comes to revenue and expenses, but it's just kind of like, we would just be passing that through directly to consultant. So it looks like a much higher amount, but we actually, that amount, we flagged it as well when we were trying to think about areas that we could maybe be more conservative with the budget. And part of it is just because the funds are restricted, that we can't use them for staff time. They have to be used for consultants.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I finally found the page.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, and actually, that is about a $550,000, or,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's a $500,000 difference, which is really about that one
Yeah.
contract that they're building.
Anybody else have any questions on this fiscally conservative budget for NMCOG? That's what it is.
I am
Don, yeah.
just trying to understand,
Yeah.
I noted that the Drake assessment, like probably all of them went up about 10%.
Mhm.
There was warned partners that, shouldn't be looking for more than 2.5% a year from, these communities. So, but you also said you would explain such an extraordinary, increase later on. So I can wait.
No, well, actually, a few years ago now, maybe 4.
Yep.
It was right around when I started. We explored that 2.5%, which it had been for decades.
Forever.
Forever.
Yeah.
And we, with Jerry Freshett's leadership on the finance committee and as the treasurer and the committee itself explored different scenarios. We actually, what we looked at was the cost of our services versus what we're, in terms of what we give to our communities versus what we are bringing in for the community member assessments. And it was a pretty dramatic difference. So we actually started with a much higher number, and we came back to a plan and a strategy that was more modest actually at the time, where it went up, I believe it was 7% and then 8% and then now 10%. And so there had been sort of this 3-year plan that we would ease into, but not the first year, because of, as required under our bylaws, we couldn't agree to all 3 years, but in spirit, we all at that time agreed that that was a good route to kind of correct the problem, to some degree. So we agreed that we would revisit it every year when we do our community member assessment vote and see if we still feel the same. And so far that has been the case up until now. And so what I said was, the finance committee will revisit this again, and I'm sure we'll take a look at what makes the most sense. Will we keep it the same? Will we go back to what it was before? But I think we need to, obviously we'll go back and talk about it again.
And this is, but to be clear, this is the third year of a 3-year plan.
That's
We're
right.
increasing those assessments, and now the finance committee will need to revisit how those assessments end in a coming year. The assessments are per Mass General Law, Chapter 40A. They are a per capita assessment, so the rate, if we are increasing the rate, it goes up uniformly for all communities. But yeah, it's really up to the finance committee to think how would assessments change in the next year.
And it'll come back to the full council for agreement or debate or discussion when the time comes.
I really want to ask, because if anyone has to explain.
Sure.
The Drake
Yeah.
board.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're on the screen here. These are voted on in November. We actually have tried to move up this vote as much as possible to be in alignment with our communities and when they're typically doing budget, with the exception of Lowell. But it's been, it used to be in February, I believe. So we've moved it up to a fall date in order to be better aligned, and that does seem to be helpful.
To get the word out to the town administrators or each community, city manager, let them know what we're doing too. They can create the budgets.
Thank you, and I wonder whether you could just point towards, in the revenue, Drake has another, NMCOG line item that we've signed up for your service to help us manage, affordable housing. Where does that roll into on page 5?
It's actually, if you look at the revenue, comparison revenue, I think it says Northern Middlesex Regional Housing Services Office.
Page.
On the phone.
Well, it's my page. It's on the screen too.
there you go.
It's this.
It's this third one. down.
It's under
Yeah.
assessments and regional collaboratives. So the other things that every community participates in is the Northern Middlesex Stormwater Collaborative.
Yes.
That is to be compliant with the MS4 permit process. This is the new regional service, which is only applicable to 5 of our communities. So every community pays a member assessment and the Stormwater Collaborative at this time. And that actually also has an MOU. And then this is the new intermunicipal agreement, and Drake has stated that they want to participate in that. Yeah. But
I
that's
think Drake might be in one of the two regional imagery ones as well.
oh yes,
I
that
don't
is true
remember.
actually.
I
Yeah,
don't remember which one
participate
it
in it.
is.
That's more of a pass through.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Okay, any more questions from any of the councilors on the budget?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If not hearing that, any, we have a motion to approve the fiscal 2027 car operating budget as presented.
I move that we approve the fiscal 27 budget as presented.
Moved by Chuck,
Have a second? Second.
seconded by Phil.
Okay, roll call, please.
Chris, preview. Did he? Oh, he left. Did he leave? No.
Okay.
Chris, are you still there?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
is that yes? Okay. And Mary McBride, you have joined us. Mary? We're voting on the
Oh,
budget.
Mary's in too.
We'll come back to you. Don,
Yes.
Phil,
Yes.
Jim, Wilkie?
Yes, yes.
Jason, Silva,
Yes.
Belinda,
I'm gonna abstain.
hey, Chuck,
Yes.
Joan,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
Kimberly,
Yes.
Don,
Aye.
Joni,
Yes.
Mary. Okay,
Okay, motion approved. Let's move on to agenda item number 5.
Hey, Steve, I
Yes,
just
go ahead.
want to apologize, but I do have to leave for the select board meeting, but I did want to participate in this part of the meeting. So thanks for everybody's support on the budget, and see you next meeting.
Thanks, Chuck.
thank you, Chuck.
Okay, let's move on to NMCOG's 2025 Greater Lowell Annual Housing Summit, Homelessness to Hopefulness. Report out by planning board members from Dunstable, Lowell, and Westford.
All right, we have folks from Dunstable here on the screen. Jim and Jason. I'll hand it over to Jim.
Okay, do you mind if I share? I made a couple of slides.
Oh,
Is-
that's fancy. All right.
Well, it's just to really
He's making
illustrate.
up for his absenteeism. He said in the bar, high for all. Yeah, that's right. But that's not good, is it? More work.
So you had asked me, Jenny, to look through the document and pick out a few responses.
Yes.
And with respect to housing, obviously Dunstable has a very low population of about, I think it's 32 or 3,600 people. And there's a whole lot of land available for housing. And people in Dunstable, by and large, are very protective of the land. People in Dunstable would like to see it, if it gets developed, for it to be developed in a manner in which it fits the look and feel. So that's a sort of an underlying issue. There is definitely a need for, people have said aging in place is a very important feature that we would love to have. And we don't have any senior housing. We don't have really a place where people can sell their home, primarily a single family home, and then move into a development that is appropriate for not just 55 plus, but it's sort of like 75 plus, where they can take care of themselves, but they don't really want to take care of a home. So aging in place is an important feature that we would love to see. And then I think it's very important to have people of all income levels in the region, especially if you're an employer. There's an automotive repair shop, There's a sandwich shop, there's a Dunkin' Donuts and a gas station. So there are a few there's a flower shop. There are a few businesses in place that I'm sure would love to have people of various talents. So I do think it's important and good for people to have access to housing. But how do you do that? So I went to ChatGPT and I thought, what we don't have when somebody goes to develop a 40B neighborhood, the planning board does not have any authority on, we can give advice, but we don't have any authority on approving an elevation. And so this is a 10-acre, 40-unit site that I just dreamed up with ChatGPT. This would look great. I'm sure it would be easily approved in a town like Dunstable. So what can we do? I would love to see us, if we could lobby at the state level to have a change, and I know that that would be huge, to have a change to the regulations so that the planning boards or the select board had some kind of authority over what the elevations look like for a densely populated development. That would be a very welcome thing for Dunstable. And again, everybody is for having housing for all income levels. It would be a really smart thing to do for many reasons. But people are very, very worried that, we have two plans in place today. One of them is 156 units on about 10 acres instead of the 40 unit that I showed you. And it kind of looks like, military barracks, 3 stories high. And it just doesn't fit, doesn't have the look and feel of Dunstable. So I know in some cases this goes over like a fire in church. If you go into a community where you have places, I've been in and around the area. I've been in and around Lowell my entire life. And so, it may not sit well with some people. It's not that we're trying to be snobby. We just want to preserve, once again, the nature of the town. Anyway,
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Want to move on to,
Joni
yeah,
or Jason, actually, Jason.
Do you mind if I say a few things?
go
yeah,
right ahead.
All right, I'm gonna keep my, Jim has a voice for radio, and I have a face for radio, so
yeah, radio voice and a radio face.
I'm gonna keep the camera. So, thank you for the opportunity to speak. And I'm sorry my attendance hasn't been great, but it's gonna get better, I promise. So I looked over the plan several times. My comments are probably not going to be as organized as I'd like them to be, but a few things that jumped off the page to me was, first, we have a 40B that's hopefully going to start in construction this summer. And once built, I'm not an expert in this, but we will need assistance with just monitoring, I think. I think there's a requirement there. And so technical assistance around that for like housing production and choice category. NMCOG is also helping us with Route 113 visioning process, which we just wrapped up, I'd say. I don't know if it's the first phase, but maybe first and second phase of that. And so we have a great report that Jenny Kelly helped us pull together, which I'm really excited about. It talks about infrastructure improvements that I think will ultimately help help us to advance some zoning, or at least us looking at some zoning changes as well that may align, hopefully, with some of the goals of the regional housing plan. I think some of the first-time home buyer programs, those are in the plan. They're also in our local HPP. So like aligning what's in our local HPP with the regional plan. I know that was all obviously part of the work you all did, but aligning the implementation, I think, in Dunstable would be great. And specifically, I think from what we really could use, I think NMCOG has figured out how much we love technical assistance. And so we have an HPP that you all helped pull together, and honestly, it's been sitting on a shelf since we put it together. And we have a affordable housing committee that's, I think, interested in doing stuff. But it needs some help with not only convening them, but facilitating and helping them prioritize and helping them just generally with implementing some of the recommendations. And those are all over the place. I'm not going to go through those, but I think we would really benefit from technical assistance to help us with focusing on implementing the recommendations of our HPP, which for us, I think, are fairly impactful if we were able to focus on it. So those are my comments. Thanks for the opportunity. And you can thank me later for not turning my camera on.
Thank you, Jason. Next.
Joni.
Sorry, my connection's kind of unstable, so I'm having a little bit of difficulty. When I briefed and went through the at home in Greater Lowell with the planning board, everyone was kind of in agreement that there were some things that we find are really important. Missing middle, and I know I've talked a lot about this in various meetings, not only here but with the RHSOs meeting, is, how do we get affordable housing, or housing that is affordable for those that are in the 80 to 120% AMI bracket. The single mothers, the young people, and seniors, seniors on fixed incomes that maybe don't qualify for affordables, but have no place to go. So that whole missing middle is really is a big focus, and something Westford would obviously like more help with. The other thing that we discussed is at our last town meeting, and with the help of our CPC, we were able to establish a housing development fund. And what we are hoping to do, and hopefully COG can help us with, is work on some down payment assistance for any affordables. As affordables come for sale, we don't want to be losing them. We don't want to see them coming off the SHI. But a lot of people, it's, a very narrow margin of folks that can qualify because they can only have a certain amount of assets, but yet they have to be able to make the mortgage payment. But they have to have a down payment. So it's kind of a snowball, and a lot of people get eliminated because they don't have enough for the down payment. And so we are looking at a down payment assistance program, and hopefully we can get some help with that. The other thing we would really like help with is, again, maybe financing. Are there any special financing programs, things that can help folks who are looking to buy affordables, better rates, what other programs are out there and that can also work into our Housing Development Fund program. So thank you.
Thank you, Joni. Jen, anything else on that?
I was going to report out for Jerry.
Okay.
Okay. So Jerry, for Shut this evening, had a special meeting of the planning board with a committee that's working on zoning updates and a zoning audit. So he could not be here this evening, but wanted to make sure that I shared his report out. So I'm going to read it to you but I can't read it in his voice. I'm sorry. So you'll just have to listen to me. So yeah, that's right. All right. So at their May 4th, 2026 Lowell Planning Board meeting, the board discussed the At Home in Greater Lowell Part 1 plan and its goals and strategies. The members were provided with a copy the prior month with the intention of discussing the potential adoption of any of the goals and strategies, as well as to provide support for goals and strategies beyond the scope of the planning board's control. Although we had a robust discussion on the many challenges related to the development of housing, we concentrated on what the planning board could adopt from the plan. We agreed to adopt Strategy 5.2 Fair Housing Training Program. We will be amending the planning board bylaws to require annual fair housing training for the members. It was noted that the city is currently in the process of reviewing its zoning laws, and several of the zoning strategies in the at-home and Greater Lowell plan will be part of the discussion. We discussed the fact that we have done a good job on adaptive reuses in Lowell with old mill buildings as well as church buildings, providing hundreds of units of housing to date. We also adopted an MBTA zoning district and have already approved several large-scale developments within the zone. These developments had little to no parking required, and we will continue to support these types of developments within that zoning district. The members appreciated the time and effort that was put into the plan to date. They were very supportive of the storytelling phase of the plan in particular, and the overall feeling was that it will help people understand the intended and unintended consequences of current zoning ordinances, as well as local policies and practices relative to supportive housing and funding priorities. Finally, the board felt that while storytelling is a great strategy to highlight the housing shortage, we must also engage in a dialogue with opponents to differentiate legitimate concerns from misconceptions. Implementation will require broad buy-in beyond the planning boards to make these programs, partnerships, and zoning amendments successful. Respectfully submitted.
Good point. Yeah. Okay. Anything else on that subject, Jenny?
No, but last time we did, I did give the chance for Chris or Kelly to weigh in on any of the kind of broad takeaways and how that will potentially influence any of our next steps. So collectively now we have all 9 communities. Is there anything else you want to add in terms of getting any new perspectives to share?
I'm looking at Chris. He can't tell I'm looking at him.
Chris,
I'm looking at
okay.
Well, I do appreciate everybody sharing. I did hear a few activities that we're trying to explore with the Regional Housing Services Organization. So that is a potential area of expansion for some of the other communities, including support for committees and monitoring and so forth. And then I heard everybody mention, I think everybody mentioned support for those first-time home buyer, and that's a little bit easy because it doesn't require too many changes to the community, but it's also a need we're really hearing, and that's really important, both because we want to be able to help give folks stability. And if they are in an apartment and want to move into a house and they're almost there, that's a great step because then that apartment is free for somebody who isn't ready to take that step yet. As long as we have enough homes that are, starter homes and affordable. So I see that kind of need when we say missing middle, both for something that's median income, but also middle as in it's not a little apartment, but it's not a big house on a big lot. It's a small cottage or it's a row house or it's a duplex, which is more affordable for somebody who's making, let's say, right there at median income. So I see that might be something to emphasize. And then in terms of the first-time home buyer, we're actually, Lauren and I are looking at different folks in the area to interview to get a better idea of, we kind of know what's out there because we know what's on the website, we know what's, out there, but get kind of firsthand how those programs are operating, if they feel like they're successful, and how we as a region can support them in their expansion. So I think that was kind of bubbled up to the top of my head. If Kelly, you had any additional thoughts.
I think just the only thing to add to that is I did hear a little bit about storytelling, and we did have a session earlier this month on storytelling. There was a lot of enthusiasm for it. I know Lauren and Chris were both there. And so we will have more to share with regards to the storytelling program and ways that you can participate and help promote that. So I think that's coming in the next few weeks, but that is something that I think since the beginning of this planning process, we have heard a lot about the need for those personal stories. And I'm excited to see that we're gaining traction in that area.
I forgot to mention also, although Jerry's not here, so I can't give him and his planning board props, but to adjust bylaws to require that fair housing training, that's incredible. It really is. It's a small step. But a lot of folks aren't exposed to those laws, and there's a different set of laws for Massachusetts and one for the federal government. You kind of need to know both, even as a planning board. And there's been some resistance to some planning boards in taking time out of their busy schedules to do that. So it would be it's amazing. I just wanted to give props to a person who is not here for that.
Okay, thank you, Chris and Kelly. Anything else on that before we move on?
No, I think we're ready to move on.
Okay. Let's go to Greater Low Regional Bicycle Pedestrian Plan, presentation of the draft plan out for public comment. Kelly?
Well, hello, everyone. Kelly Lynn, Deputy Director. I am going to share just a few slides with you on, and let me make sure I share the screen for everybody not in the room. At their April meeting, the MPO voted to release the draft Greater Lowell Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan for public comment. That public comment period has closed, but I would say if any of you review it and you have thoughts or have questions about, particularly about implementation and this like really ambitious, aggressive network that we're proposing, I definitely would love to hear from you and kind of talk through some of those issues. And so I wanted to share with everyone at the council today, just a quick overview of the plan and what you would be looking at if you look at this draft. So we developed this plan in combination with Tool Design Group. They've been a really great partner in this process. They really helped with a lot of the technical analysis, and our staff did hundreds and hundreds of hours of community engagement with our advisory committee, which had members from nearly every single one of our communities. With this plan, we developed a vision. This was endorsed by the advisory committee and really emphasizing the idea that walking, bicycling, taking transit should feel safe and comfortable. And we want to get people thinking. Now we know, like, if you live in Pepperell, you're probably not going to commute to work 45 minutes. That's a 45-minute drive away. But we do want people to start thinking about, hey, you know what? I'm just going a mile. What would it be like if I took my bike? So we want to start thinking about that mode shift for smaller trips. And with the advisory committee and with our municipal staff, which we did a lot of engagement with over the course of this plan, we developed a series of 6 goals. So I'm not going to read through these here. You can read them in the plan. But these goals really enforce our recommendations for the network and policy changes are really upholding each one of these goals. So we've been able to map them onto the network. The plan itself includes a number of elements. So really a comprehensive review of past plans and policies. Tool looked through bicycle and pedestrian plans and complete streets prioritization plans in every single one of our communities, as well as our regional plans. The plan incorporates a vision for one region-wide bicycle network and then discrete pedestrian networks, about 21 discrete pedestrian networks in each one of our communities. And really trying to emphasize that this kind of mobility should be for people of all ages and abilities. You should feel comfortable taking this, not just if you're a spandex bicycle rider, but if you're like a 5-year-old with training wheels or an 86-year-old on an e-bike. We also incorporated into the plan a toolbox of recommended treatments. So what does a bike lane look like? What types of bike lanes or sidewalks are appropriate in different areas? This also includes an implementation strategy and a prioritization of the network. So what segments of the network do we want to see happen first? And then what are later priorities? And then finally, this is all kind of wrapped up into one plan. In this process, we engaged the community extensively. So I had mentioned we had done about 150 hours of public outreach over the course of last summer. We had a region-wide survey, which had about 450 survey responses. I know for a region of 310,000 people, that's not a huge number. But I think what was more impressive is that we would be at these farmers markets where we would hear that there were 2,000 people in attendance, and it felt like we were talking to a lot of them. And so it's not so much about how many people took the survey, but how many people did we have these conversations with? Did they put points on a map? Did they tell us what they wanted to see? And those mapped comments are sometimes not representative of just one point on a map, but one point that's repeated dozens of times by multiple community members. We did also engage with municipal staff. We had meetings with every single engineering department and planner in our community multiple times to review the network, to review the recommendations and understand, did these fit with their local priorities? And overall, what we were hearing is that the top barriers to walking and biking in our region were really these high vehicle speeds, people not feeling safe at intersections or crosswalks, and then just overall gaps in the network. We have about 2 miles of on-street bike lanes in our region. It's not very much. We have, I think, maybe another 16 miles of shared use path and about 130 miles of sidewalks. For a region that has more than 1,200 miles of road, that's not a very high proportion. And so we're trying to think about how can we expand this responsibly, but in a way that works fiscally for our communities. Tool used those goals in order to really develop a number of principles that guided the network, including equity, comfort, access, and safety. And then they were able to evaluate each link on the network and say, does this link actually meet our goals for equity? Does it meet our goals for comfort? Does it meet our goals for access? Does it meet our goals for safety? And so, as I mentioned, the result is one region-wide bicycle network. You know, like I said, we have 1,200 miles of roads. We're not looking to put bike lanes on all of them, and 9 discrete local networks. I will give you a link to where you could zoom in on these because these are very, very tiny maps. But really what the network envisions is for the pedestrian network, really doubling that 130 miles of sidewalks to about 267 miles of sidewalks. So that's going from about 10% of our road miles to about 22% of our road miles. And for the pedestrian network, we're really looking at kind of those economic centers of activities, and then how do we connect, as you can see, like in the purple lines for Tewksbury here, how do we connect between those nodes of sidewalks? And then for our bicycle network, the network envisions moving from 18 miles of bicycle facilities to 138 miles. So this is from 1.5% of our roadways having a bicycle lane to about 11%. So again, it's not bike lanes everywhere, but it is trying to think about how can we have some safe connections for people who are on bikes.
Is the bicycle network connected to all 9 communities?
Yes, it actually is. So, you know, and actually what you're seeing here is anything in red is a short-term priority.
Right.
So it's something that you would prioritize in the near term. And then over the medium term, starting to think about how do we extend this network to connect further out to our communities. And then over the long term, like where are those kind of tertiary connections that will further kind of create or strengthen the network so people can get around in different ways.
So where some of the trails spill over into other communities outside of our region,
Yes.
is that to some degree coordinated with those other planning organizations? Or?
Yeah, so we do have conversations with Merrimack Valley in particular.
Okay.
The other thing that we are trying to think about is, you know, how does this network connect to the National River Rail Trail or the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail? These are our most popular both bicycle and pedestrian connections in our region. And so those really kind of form the backbone of some of the recommendations.
Yeah, I was surprised when they were talking about the Route 110 resurfacing in Drake, where there were a number of people who say, we take our bikes to go to work in Lawrence.
Yeah.
From Drake. It's like, really?
Yeah, yeah.
And they're in fear for their life when they're doing it.
And I used to bike commute year round. And you know, so even through storms and getting into Boston. And I would say one of the things that helped with safety was not just having a bike lane, but having other cyclists around me. And so as you start to build the infrastructure, you know, I think one of the objections that we heard from certain residents in this plan was like, well, I don't see anybody bike. And it's like, well, you kind of need the infrastructure for people to feel safe doing it. And then as people feel safe, you start to see more and more people. And I would say going from Somerville into Boston on a bike, I felt like I was on a bike highway sometimes. It almost felt like the bike lane got congested. But you definitely feel much safer in that kind of environment.
But to that same point, I don't see anybody in the library, but I don't go to the library either. So that's why I don't see people there.
Yeah, exactly.
Kelly is.
Yeah, sorry.
Is there,
Oops.
is there a connection to the Bay Circuit Trail?
That is a very good question. I believe there is, and I know we talked about that connection through Drake-It, and we included that in part of the recommendations here.
Maybe when we go to that.
Yeah.
Bay Circuit Trail goes from Plum Island, Newburyport,
Yeah.
all the way down to Duxbury,
Yeah.
220 miles.
And I know Tool considered, in some areas, when we actually look at the zoomed in map, there's some segments that are called envisioned. So if they are gaps in the network, but they've been envisioned by an agency or an organization, we included those because those are things we want to link to and we want to support the implementation of those. And then there are other facilities that are actually or actively being planned by, rail trail organizations or other communities. So you can see the status of that on the actual digital map.
How about like wayfinding, whose responsibility is that? Each local community on the trails themselves, so how's that work?
That's typically the responsibility of the community, but I
Right.
think as far as implementation is concerned, that's something that we as staff are trying to find ways to help support.
Sure.
And that may be even through things like our micro mobility fund through the TIP. Wayfinding is an eligible expense for those federal dollars. And so if we had communities that were interested in a wayfinding program, that might be something we'd be able to
I
fund.
think it'd be helpful for the cyclists.
I think one thing we know is that, this many miles of sidewalks and this many miles of bike lanes is not free to implement. And so we can't just recommend something and leave it in the laps of our communities. Through the TIP programs that are just coming out in 2027, we're trying to pair these recommendations with funding sources for our communities to access so they can actually start to implement them. Tool for each one of these segments in the bicycle network, Tool is recommending a different type of bicycle facility. And really the ways, the types of facilities that they're recommending are really based on both the volume of vehicles per day that travel on those roadways and then the speed that those vehicles are traveling. So as speed increases and as the volume of traffic increases, in order to feel safe or comfortable in those facilities, you need more separation from the roadway. People often feel okay on a residential street riding on the street.
Sure.
Because you might have 100 cars per day and they're going 20 miles an hour. But when you're going down Route 110 to Drake, that's where you might want a separated facility.
Whose responsibility is to monitor these trails in terms of safety and things of that nature, like law enforcement or local law enforcement? How's that work?
So one of the things that we are looking to in this plan, and this was feedback from MassDOT, was really to connect our recommendations to the Commission on Micromobility. That commission had a lot of really excellent recommendations, particularly with regard to electric bicycles, or like micromobility devices like e-scooters and that sort of thing. Enforcement is always an issue, but what will really help on enforcement on anything in this plan is having statewide laws.
Right.
Because you can't really, it's hard to enforce something where the rules are different from community to community. Whereas if there are statewide laws, like one of the recommendations of the commission is to have a statewide speed limit on shared use paths. That would be incredibly helpful, just even having that speed maximum. So yes, enforcement is really on communities. And I know that's always difficult, but you kind of need the regulations there before you can even start to think about enforcement. So again, just, these are just some visuals just showing the different types of bike facility types that are recommended in the plan. You're welcome to take a look and learn more about these. And then we have a whole section of the plan that's because we recognize it's not just about lines on a map, but what are the policies that align with these. So we have a series of policy recommendations around safety, trails and shared use paths, zoning, subdivision regulations, design guidelines, enforcement, Steve, and education. We as an agency monitoring the use of any kind of pedestrian and bicycle facilities to see the effectiveness of this plan. This plan is also an offshoot of our Vision Zero. So trying to make sure that we're achieving our safety goals as part of implementation is important. And then equity and accessibility and shared services. I can answer questions in just a second, but one other thing I wanted to share is that if you go to engage.nimcog.org/GLBPP, that's for Greater Lowell Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan. That is our engagement platform for this. You can download a draft of the plan. You can take a look at any of the appendices. And then there is also a link in there where you can get into a GIS map and take a closer look at these network recommendations. And so as you can see over on the right, you can see what the proposed bicycle network is. These blue lines here, proposed pedestrian connections. These envisioned facilities are facilities that perhaps like a nonprofit group, or we've engaged a lot with the Friends of Regional Fort. I always blank on that.
This,
We have Topaz. I know Andrew was here. The Fort Group and the Middlesex Canal Commission, like they have envisioned certain connections across the region. So we wanted to make sure that those were incorporated in our vision for the network. And they're also mentioned as part of the policies so that we're supporting groups that are advocating for these kind of off-road trail connections. Off-road is a little bit harder for us to implement because that often goes over private land. So that's where we really rely on our advocacy partners to take the steps. But we want to make sure that the plan indicates our support for those endeavors. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I do invite you to take a look at the draft plan. And if you have additional questions or comments after looking at that, please reach out and let me know. One other aspect of this is, we're asking the MPO to vote to endorse the plan at their meeting next week, Wednesday. But we also see this as a living document. This is something where we're going to be tracking the implementation. Anytime we see upgrades to the sidewalk network or the bicycle network, we're going to be adding that to the plan to really try to track the success of the plan. And we also are starting a bicycle and pedestrian counting program. So we're getting the right kind of equipment so that we can start to track how many users are using a Bruce Freeman on a regular basis, or if there isn't, we know there's going to be a new bike lane on Father Morissette right here at Lowell. So we can take some counts of how much pedestrian and bike activity there is right now, and then how that might change after a separated bike facility is brought in. Now it will be quiet. Anyone has questions?
That's a great presentation.
Thank you.
Lot there to absorb.
Yeah.
And to think about, that's for sure. I think about what the policies would be, these types of issues that we're facing today in terms of rules and regulations. Something legislative might be looking at too, right? Yeah, and it's gonna start from the state and work its way down, I would think. Because local control is really, enforcement's all over the place, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Also, if gas hits $5 a gallon this summer, people might want to be taking their bikes a little bit more. So if we can make that safer, we're definitely interested.
Okay, any questions on Kelly on the presentation? If not, we'll move on. Executive Director's report, Jenny.
all right. Well, you can share my screen, but obviously my report was previously distributed, so I'll just put it back up here. Let's keep. So first thing I wanted to mention is two really exciting things. I'm not going to go in order. So actually, if it's okay, I'm going to just take this down because it's making me dizzy.
Sorry.
So no, I just don't really think it's necessary today. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to Kelly and the transportation team for their work on the Greater Lowell Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan, because for those of you, we've talked about it for a while now, and it's been in progress for a while, and some of you might know this, but this has been a long-standing objective in our work program, to do regional plan, to talk about bicycling in the region, to talk about pedestrian access and lack of sidewalk connectivity and all that stuff. And Kelly has finally made that happen for us. So I just really want to congratulate her on leading that initiative and also securing all the resources that we needed to make it happen, because it wouldn't have happened without her leadership. So really want to thank Kelly on that. I know it's not fully approved. I think it's very important to note and very much appreciated by everybody who's been participating. Of course, I know there's still a lot more to do and need the MPO to vote and approve it, but I know that it will carry through into the future and be a very long-lasting document that will be used. So thank you. So I also wanted to, Megan Tenoff can't be here tonight, but I want to congratulate her also, because due to her leadership with the Northern Middlesex Stormwater Collaborative's Merrimack River Revive project, we actually won a Stormy Award, which is the New England chapter of the American Public Works Association grants Stormy Awards every year, and to, in this case, to an innovative collaboration and regional project. And so I'm pleased to say that we are one of the winners of that, and that is also due to Megan's exceptional leadership and, you know, securing the funds, securing all the resources that were necessary, all the participation across not just our region, but additional communities that have been engaged in that effort. So really phenomenal work there. So I'm very proud of that.
Was it a monetary reward?
Yes.
A plaque?
Yeah, it's a plaque. There's one out there. So actually, NMCOG received a Stormy Award, one of the first Stormy Awards in 2014, just for establishing the collaborative. So here we are 12 years later.
Wow.
Receiving an award for the phenomenal efforts of
That's progress.
and proof that a regional collaboration and collaborative can be very effective. So very happy about that.
If I may say,
Yes.
a number of years ago, NMCOG was described as a sleepy organization, and to see an award given like that, that's just fantastic. It's good.
Making progress, huh?
Thank you. Also, we have been supporting, as you likely know, many of our communities in pursuing grant funds through the state, also through the federal government. And we recently learned of 2 awards that came through for the town of Dunstable. One is for a study of some programming at the Union School building. It's a Mass Cultural Council facilities grant. So they received that funding that we applied for, and want to thank Isabel Emmett, who worked with me on that grant application, and also Kelly's assistance. We're happy to say that they received that award, and they'll be able to proceed with securing probably a design firm who can help them with some of the exploration of the right programming for the building, so that it can be supportive for the long term to the community, not just as a community cultural and historic resource, but also utilized potentially for other activities as well.
So it's like a feasibility study?
Like a feasibility study, but specific to the programming of the building and the operations, how it's going to actually operate in the long term, so that it's sustained. So it's not just a one-time thing, but how do you roll that into the future?
Thank you very much. That's excellent.
Yeah.
Congrats, Dunstable.
Yes, well, we have excellent partners to work with in Dunstable. We're grateful for that. And also we Kelly helped with John Doolin and probably other transportation.
And Apple too.
And Apple,
Yeah.
Schultz on a complete streets grant.
$120,000.
That's for $120,000 to help with some sidewalk connectivity in the town center. And we're also in the process of helping the town of Billerica and also the town of Dunstable with securing funds for an ADA self-evaluation, and we'll see what happens if those funds come through. And then just other things that I want to just high level note is we're continuing, obviously, you know about that in Greater Lowell and the work on that, but we're actually also launching and working with Lauren on this, the Housing Supply Accelerator. This accelerator is going to be looking at the advancement of all different types of implementation tools, but also some of the barriers to housing production just specific to the Greater Lowell region. So we're kicking that off next month, and we're still in the process of bringing people together to confirm that they'll be able to attend that meeting. More to report on that in the future. We are also engaged in a contract with Metropolitan Area Planning Council, or MAPC, on some regional, basically growth scenario planning and modeling. That'll help us as not just for at home in Greater Lowell, but also as we participate in that MILIS project, which we talked about a couple months ago, the Massachusetts Integrated Land Use Strategy, or MILIS for short. It will help to inform where we see opportunities for growth in our region, and where we also want to think about areas to conserve and preserve. You heard about the bike ped plan. Obviously, we also are in the process of amending our Unified Planning Work Program. I believe that's also on for next week's meeting. We are also in the process of working on the draft of the next 5-year transportation improvement program. And we are continuing to do work in partnership and also alongside and in support of the Lowell Regional Transit Authority, the LRTA. We've also completed some key sections of the Regional Safety Toolkit, which is a complement to our Greater Lowell Vision Zero plan. And then last thing I want to note, other than just ongoing work that's happening in all of your communities on open space plans and housing production plans and many other technical support plans, we are gearing up for a September Greater Lowell Economic Summit. And I don't have all of the details for that yet, but hope to by our June meeting. Because we're also establishing some new task forces to implement our SEDS, which you endorsed last year. And I think I'll see if there are any questions.
Any questions for Jenny?
Thank
Okay,
you.
okay, thank you, Benny. Let's move on to community exchange. Some council, you have a shot.
Jason has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Jason. Go right ahead. I'm looking down.
That's all right. I just wanted to thank Jenny. I wanted to thank Kelly and everybody at NMCOG for all of their help with securing those funds and a lot of other stuff that's happening, but in particular, the recent funds we've secured. Those are like really important projects, especially the sidewalk connectivity one. The town literally has been talking about that project, I think, for 20 years, and it's never just been able to move forward. So that $120,000 is huge. The Union Building, we've invested a ton of money on the exterior. We're working on the interior design now, and to have, as Jenny was saying, a sustainable model to make that a productive property for the community to use is going to be really important for us in our town center. So I just want to really thank you guys. You guys are amazing.
That's what's on the move.
Thank you, Jason. And we are available to any of the communities here. As I've said many times, if you think you need some support, like we provide to Dunstable and other communities, but if you're not sure if we do it in yours, glad to help with pursuing state or federal grant resources. So just get in touch with us if you need that support.
That was a great report, but community exchange too from Dunstable just now, so. Let's start with that bill of record. Chris or Mary, anything you want to add about what's going on in your community?
So we delayed our town meeting to May 19th, but it was when we had the site plan review that we had been working on, the tiered approach that NMCOG helped with us. And we're happy to say that it did pass. I wasn't at that. I actually, because they delayed town meeting, I had a vacation plan. So right now I'm in like Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh,
Yeah,
Lucky you.
supposed to be at a fancy dinner right now, but basically I've been listening, and just there was some loud music earlier, so I haven't been really talking that much, but I've been listening as intently as I can. But yeah, so that passed, and hopefully we'll have in the next town meetings, even though I won't be there, they'll hopefully pass some of the just some minor changes to the NMCOG zoning, and hopefully that will pass as well. So I'm excited to have the kind of the tiered approach and seeing how the businesses will respond to that. And it seemed like town meeting had our trust, and so that was always kind of reassuring. And I've been very thankful for NMCOG for not only the process of helping us with the MBTA community zoning and getting that passed, but also to the site plan review. Those two things I think will help us out significantly. And that's just in terms of zoning. We have some mixed use projects that are, just going, hopefully be approved soon, and talk of the town. We've got, I guess, a new Starbucks that people like, and they don't really like the housing components of it, but they like the businesses that are coming here. So that's always good to see. So overall, I think hopefully it's going in a positive direction. And I think that's mostly it there. And then Borica's budget's doing overall okay. I know other communities are having a much tougher time. So I think Borica is just in a fortunate position so far. I don't know about next year or the year after that, but at least the budget seems to be okay for right now.
Thank you, Chris. Enjoy your stay. Mary, if you're on. Okay, we'll move on to, Drake. Don?
Yeah, really, everything in Drake right now is building up to June 1st town meeting. So, just the news from Drake.
Okay. Phil?
Yeah, one of the larger items on the Drake Town warrant is for a school project with a projected cost of $177 million. 83 million of which the MSBA has pledged a grant. And there is still another $5 to $7 million in mass save grants for energy efficiencies and stuff like that.
We give about half.
So it's certainly a good amount of money that is being provided to Drake for this project. And whether Drake wants to accept it is another question.
Stay tuned, right?
Yes,
Okay,
we'll know at the next meeting.
thank you. We can hear from Dunstable real quick. Jim or Jason, anything else in Dunstable going on?
No, nothing else. This is a group that votes. We had a select board race where the winner got 303 votes and the loser got 302 votes.
Oh my God.
So if you ever missed a vote, that's why you go and vote. That's
Hey,
it.
Jim,
Thank
who
you.
won?
Tully, David Tully the third.
Wow, that was close. My God.
I would have had the three.
Thanks for that report. Okay, we move on to Lowell. Belinda?
Well, we are in the process of dealing with our city budget. We have a meeting, next Tuesday, our, weekly city council meeting, at which that will be the primary topic, so.
Joan Pepperell?
Oh, the Pepperell Planning Board has been busy and continuously working on zoning changes. We're hoping to, at some point, include a 40Y or a 40R or a 40B. But we haven't made that decision yet, so we're still working on identifying properties and what's a better fit for Pepperell.
No, keep working.
Here we are.
Let's move on to Tewksbury. Jonathan?
Fairly quiet planning board meeting last week. We approved a small 2-building, 7 units each with an affordable unit in it. And other than that, we seem to have 1 to 2 ADUs coming in under our new ADU bylaw that we passed. That's been really popular. And but other than that, pretty quiet. So just wait and see what happens next.
Okay, thank you very much. Tingsboro, Kimberly?
Yeah, just to say we had our town meeting and town elections, and unfortunately our funding for a new fire station passed town meeting and did not pass the town election by 124 votes. So I think all that means, as you all know, is it'll come up again in a year and then it will be more expensive. So
Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry to hear that. Westford, Sean?
Hi, everyone. Since we were last together, we had our town elections earlier this month, like many towns in this room. Last weekend, we had our Apple Blossom Parade. It was really well attended, great event. But excitingly, and thanks to NMCOG, we're rolling out our Pay As You Throw program, and that will start on July 1st. So we're in the process of we'll be pushing out information on that because it's a big change to our trash disposal. So we're pushing out cards to every household, I believe, in the second week in June. And then the program will start, which will require the use of pay-as-you-throw bags come July 1. So I'm sure it will be a little crazy in the beginning, but we're really excited and hopefully it will work out and we'll be able to save some money. And again, thank you to NMCOG. They really helped get it through. So and then We too are in the planning phases of a new school, the very early inception, nowhere near bringing something public yet, but so we have MSBA involved and the like also. So, Joan?
Yes, I'd like to add a couple things. First, I'd like to really thank NMCOG for a great presentation at our last planning board meeting on our open space plan, and also helping us with the new solar and BESS, that is being mandated by the state, and hopefully, working with us to create a new zoning bylaw for, solar and battery storage. NMCOG is also helping us with our HPP. We're finalizing the scope on that, along with a detailed housing needs assessment, so that we can determine what exactly the real need is in Westford for affordables. And CPC was kind to give us the Affordable Housing Trust money for that. Also from the planning board, we closed our site plan hearing on the replacement or demolition and MBTA construction at the Westford Regency, what was the Westford Regency, which will be 300 units, apartments, and of which we will get 30 affordables. It's been a very long site plan review process and stormwater process, but happy to say I think we have a really good plan coming. So thank you again to NMCOG for all your help on many fronts.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you all for the reports tonight. Let's move on to NMCOG reminders and announcements. MPO meeting May 28th at 2 p.m. And the NMCOG council meeting June 18th at 7 p.m. I guess we can talk about our summer schedule then.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
okay.
talk about it next month.
That's cool. Okay, let's go to last agenda item before adjournment. Be any other business not known at this time?
It's May 27th.
Oh, May 20th.
Oh, sorry.
That's all
about
right.
that.
No, that's
Is it-
okay. I was like,
28th?
yeah, that's
Oh.
okay. It's Wednesday. It's next week.
So NPO
Yeah.
May 27th?
Yes.
It's not next Thursday. Don't
Yeah.
come here next Thursday. No, if you come here next Thursday at 2, you're welcome. There won't be an NPO meeting, my bad. Actually, I do have one other item,
Right,
which is to
sure.
follow up on what Joan was just mentioning about our visit to the planning board and the work that we're doing for the town of Westford, which is to help with the solar and battery energy storage zoning, as well as potentially a town ordinance amendment, general bylaws. So we will be providing that we will be available rather to provide that technical assistance to any community that's interested in receiving it. Westford just happened to be, we already have been in a contract with the town of Westford to provide a variety of sustainability services for the last almost 2 years now. But we will have additional support available to help your planning board if you'd like it, with any of that assistance. You also don't need to do it, but it's an option. So if you are interested in it or you have questions about this, please follow up directly with me. And I'm glad to help guide you on that. That would be
Okay,
it.
thank you, Jenny.
Okay, thank you.
Need a motion to adjourn? Linda,
Moved by Belinda.
have a second?
Second by Jonathan.
Y'all want to stay a little longer? Oh, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Have a great Memorial Day weekend, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank
You too.
Good night.
Yeah, take it easy. Yeah.
Good night.